live, pal.
Hey, we're live, pal. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the A-Side Live Chat here on MMAfighting.com. It is, of course, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, so I hope you're watching live. I am, of course, José Youngs, host of the A-Side Live Chat. Joining us, Casey Leydon on the ones and twos, per usual, but I am very excited to introduce. We've only had one reigning champion ever on the show, and that was when Aljamain Sterling, who was at the time was the Bellator flyweight champion of the world, joined us. But I am proud to say you've been asking for him back, and he is here once again. Big E, reigning WWE Intercontinental Champion and noted mixed martial arts fan. Big E, sir, how are you?
I'm good. Have people actually been asking about me, or is that just one of those things you say to be nice?
Oh man, people do ask, because I think lately, especially because I interviewed Israel Adesanya this past week before UFC 259, and we spoke about everything other than mixed martial arts. And people have said it was a refreshing interview, it was a refreshing take. They want more of this content. They want non-MMA fans or non-MMA fighters on the show again. And two people brought you up. They thoroughly enjoyed your interview. We've had Hurricane was on the show at one point, and he kind of went off on the characters of MMA. We've had a few other wrestlers on the show, but you specifically have the big WWE 24 on the network. Case, I don't know if you saw it. If you haven't, go watch it. You have your project, Our Heroes Rock, that you're going right now. We can plug that later, of course. So what time to get you back on the show?
I appreciate it. And also coming off a big UFC pay-per-view. I think on paper, one of the best cards in over a couple years. I don't know.
100%.
Yeah. And I loved, not saying the main card was enjoyable for sure, but the prelims, my God, were outstanding.
See?
So I thoroughly
Casey, you didn't have anything to worry about. He goes, because whenever we get a wrestler on or a non-MMA fighter or someone from like our world from the outside, they're like, do you think they watch the prelims? Should we ask about the prelims?
Yes.
And that? And I was like, Casey, I don't think you remember the last time, Biggie, you were on the show. I said, what are some of your favorite fights from, I think it was 2018, 2019. I can't quite remember the year. And you said Bryan Barberena and Vicente Luque. From that point on, I was like, oh, he's in it. He knows exactly what he's talking about.
Well, that fight was absurd.
It was.
Yeah, of course.
All right,
there's a funny story about that fight where Vicente Luque came back to do the interviews, and he said he still had blood all over his face, and his hair was all matted up, and he goes, hold on, the blood acts like hair gel, and he's like fixing his hair with Bryan Barberena's blood, and I was like, oh god, it's the most metal thing I've ever heard.
I love it so much.
But anyway, you guys know the drill. Any question you want in the world of mixed martial arts, ask away, because we have an informed fan joining us this week. Jessica Crystal Crew. Before we begin the question, Jessica Crystal Crew is, of course, longtime listener. What are your thoughts on crystals and crystal healing, Biggie?
Oh no, my man.
Isn't it? I know Jared Cannonier is a big crystal guy, right?
That's where it started.
I plead ignorance. I don't know enough. But like this, I'm much more in tune with, like, I meditate regularly now. So I'm more open to such things. I don't know enough. It seems weird to me, but that's me speaking ignorantly. So I'm going to withhold my judgment until I learn more.
Well, the only reason we ask this, and people that watch the show have heard the story 1,000 times. Maybe you heard it too, but Brian Kelleher is also a longtime proponent of the crystals. And he fought Ode Osborne on, I think, UFC 246. He was on the prelims. I think he might have even been in the Fight Pass prelims. He asked me for a crystal that Jessica sent. I was supposed to hand him off a crystal after the weigh-ins, and I gave him a tiger's eye crystal, which we inevitably found out is supposed to increase monetary wealth and gain. That's what it's supposed to do. And 2 hours later, Claudia Gadelha and Alexa Grasso falls off the main card. Brian Kelleher's fight gets bumped to the main card of a Conor McGregor fight card, and he wins the $50,000 bonus. So I'm not saying it wasn't the crystal, but it was 100% the crystal.
It had to be the crystal. All right, I might 100%. Be in now, just based on that story.
Or Robert Whitaker likes to argue coffee over crystals. That was his argument for defeating Jared Cannonier.
See, I don't drink coffee either, so I'm missing out either way.
There you go.
I gotta work on it.
Two paths you can research. But anyway, thanks for the question, Jessica. We had to get that one out of the way. John Deegan, I apologize if I mispronounced your name. New Day Rocks, of course.
You know, we were just talking about Robert Whitaker, so let's bring up his question right now.
There you go. Another question from John Deegan. Do you think the winner of Whitaker-Costa matchup is kind of pointless now because Izzy lost on Saturday? Bobby Knuckles was already the obvious choice for Izzy's next middleweight title defense. So, yes, I think Casey and I both agree. If we're talking of deserving, Robert Whitaker already deserves the rematch Israel Adesanya. I'm on the train where Izzy and Robert Whitaker are the two best middleweights in the world. If they fight 10 times, it might be 50-50. I just think Robert Whitaker lost that one fight. It was a long layoff. He said he was burnt out going into that fight. And since then, he's rattled off 2 wins over number 1 contenders. So, Biggie, I'll start with you. Is Robert Whitaker the next logical matchup if he wins, if he beats Paulo Costa? And should they even be fighting? Does he already not deserve the title shot?
MMA is not a meritocracy. So I'm not sure that really matters. I do agree with you wholeheartedly that Bobby Knuckles deserves the next shot. But it's also interesting that Izzy has been talking about Darren Till, who doesn't really deserve the next shot. But if Till rattles off another win, much like the Romero fight, if I recall correctly, the Romero fight happened because Izzy kept saying his name. And, he's at a point now where he has enough clout and can kind of call the shots. So it seems, it could be that if Darren Till gets a win, I don't know if he has a fight booked yet, and if Bobby Knuckles also has a win, that somehow Darren Till slides by Bobby, which seems a bit absurd right now. I think Whitaker is clearly the next one up. I don't know if people don't have as much of an appetite for it because he lost pretty resoundingly and it wasn't that long ago, but he also had a pretty solid run as champion. If we're talking about merit only, it's clearly Robert Whitaker. I don't think the Costa fight needs to happen. I'd rather see, I'd be cool with a Costa Till or a Costa Cannonier, maybe. But yeah, it's this weird area where I think we all know who deserves it, but Izzy's kind of pushing it in another direction.
Yeah, if you look at the upcoming middleweight fights, you got Derek Brunson and Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland, I believe, went 5-0 last year. He has some sort of issue with Izzy. I guess they ran into each other, and he called him out after his fight. Israel Adesanya said he's a little far down the road. He's already knocked out Derek Brunson. He's already knocked out Robert Whitaker. He's already knocked out Paulo Costa. And then Marvin Vettori is scheduled to fight Darren Till next. He's already beaten Marvin Vettori in the second fight. So the only one of those the only 2 fighters he hasn't fought coming up is Kevin Holland and Darren Till. He already said Kevin Holland's a little far down the path. I also don't really favor Kevin Holland against Derek Brunson. So if Darren Till wins and Robert Whitaker wins, I have a feeling Izzy's going to fight Darren Till because he really, really wants to fight him. But he also says if we're talking about deserving, that's another argument. Casey, where do you fall on this argument right now of who should fight Izzy next?
Is this a main event?
Yeah.
That's a main event?
All the middleweight fights coming up are main events.
Yeah, I don't like this fight because what if Costa wins? What are you going to do? It's a cool fight because I like seeing top-level guys punch each other. But, yeah, I'm just on it. I mean, Whitaker already earned his shot. And yeah, I don't like it, but
Whitaker Costa
I don't like a lot of things, but here I am.
Robert Whitaker, Paulo Costa is the same night as Jake Paul versus Ben Askren.
Oh God, don't get me started on
that.
But it's interesting. I don't know if there's much of an appetite for it, but Vettori he got a card. He won one card against Israel, and the wrestling, it was something that he did pretty well then. Of course, this was I think 2018, 19 at the latest. So this is a little while ago, but Vittori's been on a nice run. So it would be interesting to see if Vettori can pick up another win and possibly, he might be 2 wins away, but that fight does intrigue me. But I don't think it has the same appetite. With MMA fans, at least casuals, no one knows who Marvin Vettori is, but it's a great fight on paper.
Yeah, Marvin, to his credit, took that fight against Jack Hermanson on. He was scheduled for the card anyway. I think he's supposed to fight Jacare, and then who was supposed to be the main? Oh, Darren Till was supposed to fight Jack Hermanson. Till got hurt. Vettori stepped up and fought 5 rounds and won easily. So yeah, if he wins, probably one more. I think they got to see what happens because if Costa and Vettori win, they probably got to fight. They probably have to fight next, and Izzy can wait for it to play out. But let's see these fights play out first because, as I always say, Both men have to get into the octagon before this fight is official. Remember what happened to Chad Skelly? He walked into the octagon, and his fight still fell apart.
I couldn't believe it. I don't think I've ever seen that. A man standing in the octagon, and somehow his fight doesn't happen.
The closest we got was Kevin Holland and Trevin Giles. Kevin had his hands wrapped, and he was going to walk out second, and Trevin Giles passed out in the back. So twice this has happened. We've also had fighters weigh in and still not make the fight for COVID reasons. So let's get to the fight first before we can fantasy match make. But thank you for the question. What is our next one, Casey?
I'd also like to say I'm very happy that Bobby Knuckles' nickname has now overtaken
I agree.
The
Reaper. The Reaper.
It's a way better nickname than the Reaper.
Bobby Knuckles. That sounds so better. Yeah.
It's so
Shout out to our friends at the Co-Main Event podcast, Ben and Chad. They're the ones that kind of trademarked that. The unfortunate thing with that is Robert Whitaker's logo that he has, like the RW that with all that he sells merch on, has the scythe of like a Grim Reaper. So he's already kind of down that path.
No, like Alistair Overeem. He used to be like the Demolition Man.
Yep.
You know, he had the big hammer. He became Ubereem and everything. So
then he became
grow.
the Reem.
The Reem, yeah. Josh Barnett was the babyface assassin. They became the War Master. So good for Robert Whitaker to accept these changes. Change is good. That's my hot take. That's all I got.
Have you ever listened to Robert Whitaker's podcast? The Grange TV, I think. It's unbelievable. And his co-host was for a long time was trying to get Robert Whitaker's nickname to be the biracial angel.
You know what? I know I'm going off of nicknames a bit, but I want to say that is a big issue with Jan Błachowicz.
Jan Błachowicz?
Jan Błachowicz. Yep. He has no nickname.
Polish power, baby.
That's like a thing that's not really a nickname. He has Polish power, but maybe it should be his nickname.
I'll bring it up in his next fight because Glover Teixeira also doesn't have a nickname, and they're supposed to fight.
Yeah, these guys are like they've been fighting for like 50 years. Come on.
Yeah. If we're talking nicknames, I think Luis Peña's Violent Bob Ross is maybe the best in MMA. It's up there.
Yeah, that's way up there. It's the point where I've interviewed him, and he's like, people think my name is Robert. Like they don't know his real name. They'll see him and be like, Rob, Bob. He's like, you talking to me? Fun guy.
I'm hoping for Whitaker, like people are like, how are you doing, Mr. Knuckles? I want that to happen.
Right.
So.
There you go.
Big dream.
Thank you for the question.
All right. We got some. Here we go.
From Reddit. I'm actually incredibly curious what E's takes are on MMA. Hopefully they're not shit ones. Well, as you've heard, he is an informed fan, sir.
I think they're decent takes.
I know there are fans that don't watch all the prelim fights, and this cat does.
Hey, I gotta say, I was like, hey, Jose, is this just gonna be Conor McGregor questions for an hour?
No, man. Come on, man. I love watching the prelims too. I think they started this past weekend at like 5:15 or something. So I made sure to clear my schedule, sat down. The nice part we used to be on the road like every Saturday. So I'd be at the gym trying to catch the prelims, or I'd have to watch when I got home. But the nice part is with everything slowing down with the pandemic is I'm home on Saturdays. So that's the highlight of my Saturdays. And man, we've had at one point, I don't remember what the streak was, but we were getting a card every single week. They did a few Wednesday cards too. I don't think it was until like the end of the year we got a little bit of a break, but
we had a card. It was after the first Fight Island card, which had the triple title fight headliner, which that was the Masvidal Usman one that started it. And then they had Whitaker and Till, and then they had Figueiredo Benavidez 2. And then when they got back, there was like, I think a week or two break. And then they had the first Apex card, which was Woodley and Burns. And then from that point on, we went all the way through December, every single week, because they had to fit them all in a week. And then we had a couple breaks coming back from Fight Islands and such. But yeah, you're not wrong. It's been a lot of and it was UFC was the only game in town for a while because Bellator, PFL, Invicta, and everyone were holding on.
That's right. Wait till April rolls around. That's when Bellator starts kicking off, and Bellator's got some awesome cards coming up. I think the first week of Bellator, the main event is going to be Rumble versus Romero. So just throw away your weekend. Just you're gonna be sitting on the TV, just throw it away.
I love that we get that in the first round too. Like they didn't mess around and try to book it for the fight, because you never know. They're not young, so I love that that's a first round matchup, man. I'm in.
Yeah, we get 2 weeks of no UFC in April, the first 2 weeks of April, I think. But during that span, PFL kickstarts this next season and Bellator returns. So yeah, there's for everyone that got used to only UFC. Sorry about it.
Jose, I'm so happy this gentleman Biggie is on the show. The fact the fact that he even knew about the tournament and like the way they put him in the same side of the bracket and everything. Sir, you make me so happy.
Told you, man.
Pleasure. My pleasure.
You're right, Jose. You're right. I don't know what. You know what? Sorry, this Fight Circus part due. That is my troll account. I'm sorry. I put my own comment up here.
There you go. Did you watch Fight Circus, Big?
No.
Oh, do you know what Fight Circus is?
No, I'm out of the loop.
Oh my God. So our own Jed Mishu is probably kicking his chair right now. So don't search Fight Circus on a public computer, because a certain site that elicits adult content is the one that put it together. Okay. And they put on this crazy, it was like pro wrestling meets MMA, where they did a 3-on-1 fight where they had like a big guy versus a small guy and then 2 guys off the street. So it was a 3-on-1. They did a Rochambeau fight where it was only leg kicks. So it was a fight with only leg kicks. Right. They had a spinning shit only fight. They had a spinning shit only fight. So you could only throw spinning back kicks and spinning elbows and everything. And then, of course, at the end, Bob Sapp made an appearance to call out the winner of the main event. So,
of course,
go watch Fight Circus 1 and 2. Just block off a whole day and you'll be sucked in.
Yeah. All right. I think I'm in. I got some time later today, so I'm in.
And remember, when you watch it, incognito browser. Just saying.
There you go.
Yes.
Borrow your friend's computer. All those pop-ups. God dang it. All right, here we go. Oh, it's a big question.
Oscar or no Oscar from MMG 2K20 on the site. Some MMA media were very quick to suggest that there was absolutely no chance that Aldo could have acted hurt, though I personally believe that he was hurt for real, and I'm a huge Aljo fan. I don't completely dismiss the idea that he could have acted. Even Josh Thompson and Big John suggested it. Aljo is exhausted. Don was tripping him up and taking him over. Had Aljo lost, he would have had to go on another run of beating killers to get another title shot. Now his next fight is a guaranteed championship fight, and he gets pay-per-view points. He is a prize fighter after all. So can you really guarantee there are absolutely no tactical acting involved? So we're going to use this question, just talk about the Aljamain Sterling Petr Yan fight. I was there. The media, the whole wind from the media room just got sucked out, because that was the fight everyone had circled. Possible fight of the night, possible fight of the year. A bunch of media were even standing up, like watching it and like kind of like doing like, getting into it. So when you're watching this fight, E, and you see the illegal knee from Petr Yan just blast Aljamain in the face, what's your initial thought?
My thought was, as a fighter, I was confused as to why he was even asking his corner if it was legal or whatever conversation was going on there. I found confusing. So that was very odd for me. I'm still unsure what was going on there. I know the reports that I think DC said Khabib was there and said that one of Jan's cornermen said to throw the knee. So I don't know exactly what happened. My thing with the acting, or whether he's not acting, is I don't think the onus should be on the fighter. I think the rule needs to change, and it should be, if the illegal knee, the referee needs to make a decision on whether the fighter can continue or not, or should continue. I think it shouldn't matter whatsoever if Aljamain was acting or if he wasn't. I feel like it's odd. Same thing, people talked about the Anthony Smith fight too with Bones, where he could have won a title. And that's a whole nother conversation too, because, we do a lot of weird things in pro wrestling, but one of the things I think we get right is a title should not change hands with a DQ. I don't know if that means the title's now vacant. I'm not sure exactly. I feel it feels so wrong that Aljamain is wearing a title now after DQ win. I think that's problematic. And I think the fact that the fighter has to decide whether they can continue or not, I think you put that in the hands of the referee or of the doctor. I think to have the fighter be in a position where he almost has to perform, because let's say Aljamain comes back and says, I can continue, but maybe he's not out from the knee. Maybe he's not concussed, but he's damaged by it. And now you put this onus on a guy who you expect to be a warrior, to be a fighter, and now you expect him to fight for another round or more, depending on the circumstance. And he's behind the 8 ball a little bit because of this knee. So I think that whole system needs to be tweaked and looked at, because it's just you shouldn't put the fighter in that position. Because if I'm Aljamain, he made the smart decision, whether he was acting or wasn't, because like the viewer said, like, now you have pay-per-view points, you have the fact that he can put on his resume that he is a former or current UFC champion. There really is no incentive for Aljamain to continue fighting. What reason, besides the fact that he is a warrior or this is what he does, financially, career-wise, like, he's pretty much guaranteed himself another Jan fight, or for some reason they decide not to go with another Jan fight. He's going to have another title fight next. That's guaranteed. So there's no incentive for him not to. I just think they need to really look at that and not put the onus in the hands of the fighter there.
Biggie, can't wait. I understand what you're saying completely. Does that mean that Anthony Smith made the dumbest decision ever? Because that's the issue. I mean, and I completely agree. I completely agree with what you're saying, but then we also go, well, Anthony Smith, he's a warrior. He took the shot, but he continued to fight.
But I guess, like, being a warrior doesn't pay your bills. You know what I mean? It doesn't keep your career escalating. So I get it. As fans, we sink our teeth into that narrative of, man, look at this guy who did things the right way, and sure, he didn't get the win, but we applaud him. But he goes home at night. He doesn't have more money because of it. His career is not in a better position because of it. So it's great for us as fans. We love it, but it just doesn't do anything for him. Not really.
Completely agree. And with your point that it shouldn't be up to the fighters, if anyone hasn't watched it, after this stream, go watch it. Our own Damon Martin sat down for 40 minutes with Aljamain Sterling. And Aljamain Sterling is in complete agreement. He goes, it shouldn't be up to me. Because if you ask me right up, I'm going to say I can fight. He doesn't know a single fighter that says, I don't want to keep fighting. It should be up to the referee. It should be up to the cornerman, doctors, whatever. I also think there should be no time if someone gets blasted in the face. Like, all time, like, counter. Like, 5 minutes, I want to see him 100%. I don't care how long it takes to clear him in there. But I agree with you. It's just a disappointing situation all around. And Aljamain also wants to clear up that he's not posting stuff with the belt. Those are all his friends. He thinks his own words were, I think the belt is collecting dust until we run it back. That was his phrasing. Someone on Twitter also wants to know, if Petr Yan wins the rematch, does that set up the Trilogy fight?
I guess it depends on the nature of that fight. If it's another close one and it's controversial, if he goes out there and he finishes Aljo in the first round, then let's move on. But 135. Maybe maybe 155, I'd say is still the premier division in MMA. But 135 is stacked. And you got so many guys who deserve that opportunity. And now we're holding up this title. And that's another issue, too. That's what bothers me, is that 135 just has so many intriguing matchups. And now we're just kind of stuck in this quagmire trying to figure out what we're going to do with Jan and Sterling.
Yeah, I think the three most stacked divisions right now, in no particular order, 135, 155, 170. And I think the thing about 170 is no one in the top 5 has fought each other outside of Kamaru Usman has beaten them all. And then the top 5 at bantamweight, if you want to argue that it's better than the top 5 in the lightweight, I'm not going to argue against you. But I do think 155 is probably still the premier division. But at 2020, man, bantamweight. Like, we're talking about the whole world, not just the UFC, because there's a bunch of killers at bantamweight in Bellator, Rise, and One, and all. Because technically, Demetrius Johnson fights 135 over in one championship. If he was in the UFC and you want to throw Demetrius Johnson in there against these bantamweights, like, sign me up. Too bad that's not happening. Also, someone says, Casey, your audio is a little low.
Oh, it is? Okay. I will speak closer to the mic. Thank you.
What do you think about the TJ Dillashaw possibly getting a title shot on his return, Big?
I don't love it. I don't love it. Mm-hmm. Again, 135. There's so many guys who've been active, and I'd like to see him get one more. I'd be cool with him having a number one contenders fight and moving on. As to Who that would be against?
It's most likely Sandhagen. I think Sandhagen's done enough already. He's wheel kicked Marlon Moraes and then flying kneed Frankie Edgar. His last loss, he got put to sleep against Aljamain. That's the only knock against him. So if Jan had won, Jan Sandhagen all the way. But now, because like Corey Sandhagen's probably the second biggest loser the third biggest loser after this, because now he has to wait longer. So the Dillashaw fight, I think, is the one to make.
Yeah, if it gets him paid, I'm cool with it. I think Sandhagen has done enough right now, winning spectacularly. But yeah, I'm not mad at that. But yeah, I don't like the idea of Dillashaw coming off of a 2-year suspension, going right into a title fight. Just doesn't feel good at all.
Biggie, I like what you said too about it being a DQ. Like, I have no issue with Jan getting the loss, and the actual L on his record, and Aljo getting the W. But I really wish with a DQ the belt had become vacant rather than Aljo becoming the champion. Because I really think that's the issue here. People just don't like the idea of Aljo being the champion. I think him winning getting the technical, he got a W on his record. That's whatever. We can deal with that. But the belt means something. So I just think that's the issue. And if they rematch for a vacant belt, I think that kind of solves a lot of problems.
Completely. I guess as an Aljo fan, the one thing that makes me kind of okay with it is I'd like to see all fighters get paid more, but to see him get points is a good thing. But I agree with you completely, because
I'm taking out the financial stuff. I'm just talking about the financial stuff, of course, yeah.
Yep. But I'm with you completely, because winning that title should mean something, and I think it devalues the title when you see someone win based on a DQ. And honestly, if it was Sterling just really putting it on Jan, and then the knee happens, then I'd be maybe a little bit more okay with it. But when you see that the tide was kind of turning and it looked like if that fight was going to go 5 rounds, I'd probably give that fight to Jan. 100%. That's the part that makes it even more hard to digest.
I said this on Twitter, because when an illegal strike that ends the fight happens, you go to the scorecards, and if, say, Jan, who was winning the fight, was up on the scorecards, but he threw the illegal strike, then it becomes a DQ or no contest. But if it was the other way around, it's just like, sorry, I'm getting kind of stuck. If Aljo threw the knee, if Aljo was winning, it. Well, you know what I'm saying.
It's a complicated thing.
I got lost in my head.
I like what you brought up about the vacant title, because remember, like when Jinyu Fry missed weight as the reigning champion in Invicta, they took her belt away. The belt, like, you miss weight as a champion, the belt is vacated. So it's something I hadn't pondered. But yes, you're right. I don't disagree with that.
All right. Thank you very much. Oh wait, did we? Yeah, we got them all. All right. One more question about Jan.
From Tristan Gordet on the site, Jan's confusion. After watching the video dialogue between Jan's coach and Jan himself for the illegal knee strike, isn't every coach on the fighter staff clarified about the rules before entering the octagon, including Jan himself? How can there be confusion? Case in point, if you remember the fight between Vicente Luque and Randy Brown, Luque clearly knew the rules, knowing that both hands of Brown were on the mat, making him a down fighter. Luque lifted Brown up where his hands were then off the mat. Thus, it was legal to throw a strike. I think that's another argument that Aljamain Sterling has, is like the referee goes in there and breaks it down. Like, we've seen the video of Herb Dean like holding a piece of paper behind the head, and he goes, anything the paper's touching is illegal, like hands down, palms down. I don't know if it was a lost in translation with Jan's Russian to English, but it is a legitimate argument that even TJ Dillashaw brought up. Like, how can you be a champion and not know the rules?
Yeah, I agree. And that seems like it should be pretty obvious. Us as fans, when we watch it live, and I get it's different being in the heat of the moment, but we know the rules. But I do think one of the issues, too, is that the rules aren't uniform from state to state. That's one of the things that I don't like, is I wish, and I get there are different state commissions, but I feel like the rules for grounded fighters should be the same across the board, whether we're in Tuscaloosa or whether we're in Paris. Like, I feel like the rules should be the same, but I understand too that's not necessarily in the hands of the UFC, because you have all these state commissions, you have commissions elsewhere, and that's one of the things that I don't know if that contributed to any kind of confusion here, but that one of the things that it rubs me the wrong way to the rules being different in different states.
See, but you're making sense, Biggie. And one of our mottos on the sport is MMA doesn't make sense. MMA is a silly world.
Yeah, well, that's what we say in wrestling too. So I get it.
How do you handle this, Biggie? I mean, you wrestle one match or one city, and the next match, this guy brings out a table and a chair. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, come on, it's so confusing,
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. The rules change by the day. We throw logic out the window. Where I work, logic has no meaning. We just dismiss it. So.
Oh, you work in MMA, I guess. All right, cool.
Yeah, it's all the same.
There you
clearly.
go. I'm glad this guy brought up the Luque fight too, because
that's a great.
I had to remember.
Well, but actually, I'm glad you brought that up too, because this just, to me, this another issue. This just shows me how kind of stupid the rule is, because if the rule is made to protect the fighter, so really I'm just gonna lift you up and throw the same dang strike, like that somehow makes it safer. It's just to me, it's the way the rule is written. It's very dumb. I just don't like the idea that one knee on the ground versus right here. You can hit me. You can't hit me. Champion.
Yeah.
Lose the belt.
Right.
That's a whole nother.
Well, there are also people who say, like, we have way too many rules in MMA, and that it should all be illegal. Let's bring back soccer kicks. Let's bring it all back, because it's like, how far do you get away from the purity of fighting and fight sports when you have all of these rules? Even like, I know Rogan will always talk about the fact that the football field, he talks about that. He talks about not breaking guys in the clinch, that it shouldn't matter if fans are bored. Like, so these are all things that I think are interesting topics, because it is a fight, and there should be certain rules. Like, I don't want to see guys have their eyeballs hanging from their face because they've been gouged out. But should that be a thing? If I'm, should I be able to throw a knee while you're on your knees? I don't know.
I remember talking to Joe Silva, the UFC matchmaker, years ago, and he was talking about how early UFCs, groin shots were legal.
Oh yeah,
groin shots were legal, but he also said, but you know what? You protected yourself then. If you got hit in the groin, all of a sudden you keep fighting. That's
part of your tactics.
That's part of your tactics, and you adjust for that, And I think that it creates a lot of problems with knee on the ground, because in our interview that Damon Martin did with Aljamain, he said, well, that position, I don't have to protect my head, and so
because it would be illegal to throw this. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And it just kind of goes against what the entire sport is about. Like, it's a fight, and you're literally kind of manipulating. I'm not blaming Aljo on this, but it's just the way the rules are. He can manipulate the rules and the position of yourself, so I can rest in this position. And Petr Yan was like, I can't. Well, I mean, there's your face, and I've been training my whole life to punch people in the face, but for some reason right now I can't. So I completely get why Yan did it. And the whole idea, like, he doesn't know the rules. Well, you know who people consider the greatest fighter ever? John Jones. His only loss comes from breaking the rules. And we go back to Anthony Smith's situation. That could have been his second loss from breaking the rules. So the idea a champ doesn't know the rules, I don't like that narrative, because I think, it just doesn't
also
make sense.
It goes ref to ref depending on what they enforce and not too, unfortunately. Because like Aljamain Sterling said, he goes, when's the last time we've had a point deduction for a groin shot? Like, if I'm not afraid of losing a point, why don't I just run out and blast the guy in the junk right away? And now he's affected the whole fight, and I have nothing to worry about. I just get a warning? Like, come on. But but who's the ref that did we get a point deduction on the Cyril Gane fight card? Or was it the they broke him up fairly early?
The not De La Rosa. Yeah,
yes. Montana De La Rosa, right?
I forgot her opponent's name. But she dominated the fight, but there was one takedown at the beginning of the fight where she grabbed the cage, and they took an entire point,
immediate,
which made the fight a draw. Even though De La Rosa's, like, by the end of the fight, her eyeball is basically hanging out of her face.
There you go.
But it's weird. I'm all for half-point deductions, but that's a whole another
topic.
Agree.
Sure. We could talk about this for an hour, all the rules we want to change. Anyway, thank you for the question, Tristan. Long-time commenter.
All right.
How many comments does he have? Like 50?
Yeah.
Usually drops a million.
Let me go to this. Boom.
Dustin Connor 3 from Key of D Minor on the site. I'm increasingly concerned that Dustin Connor 3 will be for the belt. Oh, don't put that out in the ether. This makes me sick. Please convince me I'm wrong. If they pull this stunt and hardcore fans organize an effective boycott, would the UFC pay attention? No, because Dustin Connor 3 is going to make a lot of money. And if they put a belt on the line, it's going to make even more money probably. But I actually don't think Dustin Connor 3 will be for the belt. But E, what's your thoughts on this hypothetical nightmarish scenario that this commenter left on?
I guess if you're a fan of doing things the right way and being fair, then I'm right there with you, because it should not be for the belt. But can we also leave this poor man Khabib alone? Can we let him retire? Can we formally strip him of the title? Or, it's I feel like the division just needs to move on. Like we talked about lightweight being the premier division in the UFC. I feel like that will allow a little bit more normalcy in trying to determine where we are with this division and who's actually going to fight for the title. And I think that's also helping to muddy things. I don't want to see Conor Dustin 3 for the title next. I'd love to see Conor get one more win, but he's also Conor McGregor, who has the biggest name in the sport. If we look at the UFC as a business, that's the right business decision, because it'll do way more pay-per-views than any other Dustin fight would. It's pretty obvious. So I'm okay with it. I'll enjoy the fight. Like, it's not something that would cause me. It's not worth striking over. There's so many other things in MMA that are worth striking over. This isn't it. Let's pick another battle. Fighter pay, other things worth griping over. This isn't it. I don't want to see this next, but I'll watch it and I'll be excited about it.
Yeah, I think that fight will probably happen in May or June if they go back to Fight Island in Abu Dhabi or Singapore, wherever they want to go. If it was up to you, if you were the matchmaker, E, which two lightweights do you want fighting for? And we're going to say vacant because I'm with you. Habib's not the champion, and even though Dana White is – he's not making 155 anytime soon. He was walking around Fight Island in the Fighter Hotel.
He's a big
Dude's
boy.
not a cruiserweight. Dude is not fighting for the cruiserweight title in the WWE anytime soon.
Yeah, I bet. Man, my man Oliveira is just getting pushed aside, and he's been on a hell of a run. So give me, man, that's Dustin Oliveira that's a fight, man. That's the fight.
That's the fight to make that makes sense. And I think Dustin will fight Conor next. And if that's the case, I wouldn't hate Chandler versus Oliveira or Gaethje versus Oliveira. Either one I'm fine with, or if they want to do Chandler, Gaethje, number one contender fights Dustin or whatever, I'm fine with that too. Again, I just want lightweight to be active.
Yeah, same. They're not going to do this, but I'd love a tournament, man. Give me a good old fashioned 8-man lightweight tournament.
You're making sense, man.
Or even a 6-man tournament, 2 guys. I know. They're not going to do it, but the division is so much fun, and there's so many guys who are right there, and you could say who you could see holding a title. That would be a ton of fun. It really would.
Biggie, I know we're on the other side. I'm on the other side of the country from you right now, but I just want to hug you.
Yeah,
I just want to give you a big hug, sir.
It's
once this pandemic's over, we're all vaccinated. I'm giving you a big hug.
I owe you one. Yeah.
There's someone on Twitter put this scenario together that the tournament should be to fight Dustin. Dustin has already secured himself a title shot, and he thinks Oliveira should fight Chandler/Gaethje, and then the winner of that fight fights Poirier for the vacant belt. So it's a tournament to fight Poirier, which I am all in favor for.
Dustin's done enough. He really has. And the Dustin Conor fight, I don't know if Conor deserved the title shot, but it should have been for the title. And it's a bit bizarre to me that Khabib has. It's interesting to hear Dana's comments, and then to also hear to see the interviews that I've seen from Khabib. He sounds very much like a man.
He's over it.
Yeah, he's doing a great job coaching. He was in Islam's corner, right?
Yep.
He seems to really enjoy that. I know he's also talked about starting his own organization.
Eagle Fighting Championship. Sorry, just kicked off.
Right. So he seems to have a lot of other irons in the fire. And he's doing a great job, it seems, at those. Let's let the man do what he wants with his career. He's given us enough. So I'd love to see the division move on. And let's officially – I like that idea. Let's let Poirier sit and, rest up, and let's let the rest of the division clear itself up and make that title fight.
He was also Khabib was also in the corner of Umar Nurmagomedov on Fight Island, because now people are calling for Khabib to be the early front runner for Coach of the Year 2021 because he's 2-0. He was also the translator for Umar, and the media had some fun with that. And what people didn't see is, I'm sure you saw the video. If you haven't, it's on our site, of Conor arriving on Fight Island in the Fighter Hotel, and he's walking through without a shirt and like his Gucci pants, holding his son. Right around the corner was Khabib collecting an award for the submission of the year, and we were about 10 feet away from Khabib and Conor crossing paths in the hotel, with Conor holding his kid and Khabib holding an award for a submission of the year, which I know the UFC security was like, Khabib, can you just wait like 2 seconds? Something is happening. We're not going to tell you what's happening, but we don't want this situation on our hands right now. Yeah, but I was like right in the middle, and I was like, please let it happen. Like, I had my camera. I was ready to go. It was fun. Like, we didn't see it. I had my
You just want to see the world burn.
Dude, I was there. I was all there for it. They purposely, because Umar was supposed to fight on the Conor-Dustin card, and they moved him to the Wednesday card because they didn't want that interaction to happen. But anyway.
But this is nice Conor. This is non shit talking Conor.
My fault.
This is good fight, Dustin Conor. So who knows what would have happened?
I don't know.
It's his dad, Conor.
Yeah, dad. Are we?
Anyway.
Do we like nice Conor?
I'm all for him growing as a person. If we're just into sheer entertainment, it's not the same. I'm not as entertained, but I also don't want to see him continue to dig himself in this hole. Whether it's the stuff with the court stuff, that's really, a lot of that stuff is real dark, and I don't know if all that's cleared up yet. So I hope, for his sake, as a fan, I want to see him move his life in a great direction. But also as a fan, we don't care about any of that. We want to see destruction and chaos. We want to hear stories of Mike Tyson doing coke at all hours of the morning, and then going, that's what entertains us. But also as a performer, I want to see fellow performers, people in entertainment and sports, get their lives together. So I'm I don't know how exactly to feel.
Yeah, I think the problem with Conor is because there's like you said, like kind of dark stuff that we don't need to get into. But like I loved when Chael took his losses. Chael was still claiming he was undefeated. I love stuff like that. But fortunately for Chael, there was no it was just all like in cage stuff. But
right,
yeah.
He's Floyd Mayweather said that Conor's taking his path. He's copying him, because remember when he was Pretty Boy Floyd and then he went to Money Mayweather and he was talking all that greasiness and throwing his money around and just burning. Remember, he was burning money on one of the 20 on like the countdowns or whatever. And now I can write a Floyd Mayweather promo. Hell of a fighter, super talented, young buck, old lion, all that kind of stuff. And he's super complimentary because he knows you're going to buy it regardless. Maybe Conor's doing that too. I don't know.
Yeah, good point.
All right.
MMG 2K20, some quickies. Being a hardcore casual with zero knowledge regarding anything to do with fighter financials, how much do you think Glover roughly got paid from the UFC covering only his fight camp costs compared to what he would have got if they paid him show money? Second question, should Aljo embrace the hate and turn, quote, heel, claiming to be a rightful champ and telling everyone else to shove it? Also, do you guys believe in the 6-shirt curse? Just kidding. I'll address the last one at the end, but I have absolutely no idea what Glover Teixeira got paid. Dana White's already said they covered his camp. Or no, our own Guilherme Cruz reported that they covered his camp cost, but they didn't give him a show money or anything. So I don't know how much his camp cost. I'm not going to try and guess. But I'll let you take this one. Should Aljo just go full heel and just walk around with the belt and declare himself the champion?
Well, this is my area of expertise. And here's the problem. When you're determining heel and babyface roles, is you have to know who your opponent is. His opponent is a frightening Russian man named Petr, I don't know how to pronounce it, Jan. And so if Aljo wants to turn heel, he needs to do it against a guy who can be a babyface. I like Jan. I'm thoroughly entertained by him. I don't find him to be like the guy we can get behind as a babyface. So I would say no. I think Aljo is our babyface. He's a charismatic guy. He comes out with the gold Dookie chain. He's got the sweet, sort of like high top pro. That's our baby face, man. Let's not. I'd be okay with the heel turn if maybe like Sandhagen, I think is a babyface we could all get behind. Maybe we do a bit of a turn there. I think with our opponent, if our next opponent is going to be Jan, if I'm the booker here, I say we fight it. Let's keep our babyface Sterling here, and let's let Jan be the scary Russian man who knocks people's heads off. I just don't. I will say it felt like Aljo had a lot of goodwill, and I'm not saying this is his fault by any means. And he was a guy that I thought a lot of people got behind. And it's kind of hurt me a little bit to see the way things have unfolded, and now people have kind of soured on him because of things that aren't really his fault.
Agreed. Casey, what do you got? Should you go full heel? Because Chael Sonnen has said, remember when John Jones' toe ripped in half? And if he had gone out, if they had noticed that and he had survived to the next round, he would have gotten hurt and lost, Chael would have been champ. Chael would have walked around with the belt.
You know what? But that's Chael, and very, very few professional fighters can pull that sort of acting off. And I kind of that's why I love MMA, and that's why I love pro wrestling. But I kind of don't love them when they're the same. And I don't want Aljo not to be himself. I don't mind fighters being maybe like exaggerations of themselves, but to be just a lie, I don't think Aljo's a good enough actor to do that for months and months at a time. Chael, it's in him. He just has that in him. Sure. I think Aljo, it's not natural, and that's why I don't like it. But it's fun. It's fun to think about, though. It's kind of fun to think about. But
it is fun to think about.
Unfortunately, that's why this is MMA. And, that we have pro wrestling, we have MMA. We have I just think they're two different things.
Right.
And to address the 6-shirt curse, don't put that in the ether, Biggie. I don't know if you watched the press conference when Izzy and Megan Anderson said 6-shirt to one of the reporters at the press conference. That was this guy, and apparently they both lost. Well, they did lose. So this isn't a Sean Al-Shadi curse that plagued MMA fighting for years, where everyone he would write about would lose their next fight. So don't start that.
Yeah, well, anyways, I don't know if you know this, but Megan's a pro wrestling fan. We actually connected a while ago. We had a show in Kansas City and met up. And she's a sweetheart of a human being and one incredible person. And I root for her. So it was a big bummer to see. But man, Amanda is just the greatest to ever do it. And it's not even like close in women's MMA. Not even close. And we're getting, this is a whole nother discussion, but I think we need to take her out of that women's MMA bubble and start like saying, are we putting her 100%. Up against the GSPs and the Boneses? Because I don't know, because you start asking yourself, level of competition, and that's another debate. But her resume, when it's all said and done, I think is going to be one that you can stack up against some of those top men. And it's an interesting game once you start moving her out of that, because the women's MMA thing's she's blown by. It's not even a question anymore. Okay.
I think she's got to fight Juliana Pena next because we talked about this on Between the Links yesterday. Juliana, like we talked about the pro wrestling angles and everything. Amanda has never had a foil like that can verbally yell at her. Like she's never had someone that she can be like. Ronda didn't do media, didn't help her. And then who she fought after that? Raquel Pennington, Holly, GDR, Felicia Spencer, Megan. Like the Cyborg one could have been it, but then Cyborg went to Bellator. She's never had that heated rivalry that Anderson had Chael. Kamaru has Colby and Masvidal. Like you need that. Like now we're even talking about Aljo and Jan kind of being rivals right now. I think Amanda needs to fight Juliana. Because Casey said this a few times too. Juliana's wrestling is so good in women's MMA that we want to see Amanda on her back, not just knocking people. We want to see what she can do in these spots that we haven't seen her. So I think Juliana's the fight to make. And I think if she beats her, then it's no one else out there for her.
Do you have an appetite at all for a third Shevchenko fight?
Oh, of course. But I think the UFC is leaning more towards Zhang Valentina than Valentina Amanda. But I'm never those are the two best female fighters in the world, without a doubt. I actually think Valentina won the second fight in Edmonton, and she was on her way to winning the first fight if it was 5 rounds.
I think if that fight has sold better pay-per-view wise, I think Dana would be pushing it a lot more. But I think that pay-per-view just the second one, which I think was in Edmonton. The original main event was Demetrius Johnson versus Ray Borg, and then it fell out the last day. So I'm pretty confident that that pay-per-view did like zero for the bank accounts for Dana. So I and that's what Dana kind of makes his matchups by. So I think that's why he's soured on that, unfortunately. But man, but going back to the Pena thing, Amanda Nunes has 3 losses. All 3 of those losses were by fighters who put Amanda Nunes on her back. So that's why I thought Felicia Spencer, when she fought Amanda Nunes, I thought that's why I thought it was gonna be a competitive fight. Turns out it wasn't. But I think Nunes, Julia Pena, and like you said, she needs a foil. Julia Pena isn't afraid to talk all sorts of crazy smack. Doesn't even make sense, but she'll just say it and whatever. And that's her. That's her. She doesn't mind being the heel because it's natural, So
I like the idea Juliana presented where they're both new moms that they fight on Mother's Day weekend. I like that idea.
Ooh, I'm not mad at that.
Also, our good friend Matt Wells, who's been on the show before, wanted to chime in on the whole champion disqualification thing. He said, disagree on the vacant belt if the champ is DQ'd. If the champ is clearly losing, he could just go out there, ruin the moment for the challenger, and get himself DQ'd, and all of a sudden he doesn't lose the belt. If Jan was getting cooked up, he could just go out there and just junk kick Aljamain and get himself disqualified.
That's what I was saying. If he's down, if you go to the scorecards, if you're down in the scorecards, it is a straight loss, not you lose the belt. But if you're up in the scorecards, the belt doesn't. Like if it was like a no decision or a no contest.
Sure. But, I think he's more talking about the belt changing hands. He says Matt says titles should always go to the winner, regardless of how it happened.
Matt Wells, get out of
here.
Sure.
Matt Wells, get out of here.
See, he's from Dallas. I'm from Houston, so his opinion means zero.
Is that the thing?
Yeah. All right.
Anime, thank you for the question and creating this curse, MMG 2K20. Let's not make that a thing. Benavidez as being an elite flyweight, another one from Tristan Gordet. Are Joseph Benavidez' days over as far as contending against the elites in the flyweight division? We know he won't be able to compete for a title, and he did look somewhat competitive against Askarov, but also looked outclassed. Casey, I'll start with you because you're really good friends with Joe. He's lost to who? Figueiredo and Askarov, who are 1-3.
1-3.
That doesn't make him he's still going to be competitive. He's still going to be competitive. He just lost. He's not a top 3 flyweight. But what were your thoughts?
This has always kind of been my big, problem with prize fighting, and I never really understood. Like, say in NBA, you're an all-star for your first 4 or 5 seasons, and then you finish your career, riding the bench or whatever. In prize fighting, it seems like once you're a champ or once you get that top 5 level, you're never allowed to be top 15 or top 10. You can only be that person. And like for Joseph Benavidez, I think he was, for his whole career, he's been a top 5 fighter, top 2 fighter. I think now at his age and the game, the rest of the flyweights, have kind of caught up to him. I think he's a solid top 10 guy. If you want to call it top 10 elite, that's up to you. But Benavidez is done. Yeah, but I wouldn't put money on him winning a title or even fighting for a title, but he's still competitive. He fought maybe the second best flyweight out there. We don't know. And that's all. It's just he lost the fight. He still went 15 minutes of a guy that came in overweight. And
that's true.
Yeah.
Good point.
And until Joe B loses to, some rando contender series guy, I guess, I don't know. If he wants to fight, of course he's not going to make as much money. No, you're not at the very, very top, but if it's worth his time and worth the damage to his body and everything like that, then yeah, go for it. I think just because you're not number 1, just because you used to be number 2, but you're not number 2 anymore, doesn't mean you have no value, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think when we make the NBA parallel, the only thing that comes to mind is I think when fans notice that there is a diminishment of skills, is now you start wondering about damage accumulated, and now the damage that he might take. And not that he's been in a ton of wars, especially recently. It's been, and I agree, man. He looked competitive against Askarov. He doesn't look shot at all. That's the only concern. I think he's such a likable guy. I've never met him. I don't know him, but I root for him. And I definitely think you're right. I think he beats a lot of guys from that 5 to 15 range. He's probably like the 4th or 5th best in that division right now. But he's just not, a top 3 guy. And I don't think he doesn't look like a guy like a BJ Penn at the end of his run, where you're like, get this guy out of him. Stop booking him. It's not that at all. And who knows? Maybe he makes some adjustments in his game and can make another run. I agree with you. I don't foresee it happening. But when I watched him fight Askarov, I didn't think that he was a guy who needed to hang it up.
Yeah, because if you look at Askarov's record, his only blemish is his draw to Brandon Moreno, who just fought to a draw against the champion in one of the best fights I've ever seen. So, yeah, Joe B's not going. Also, I like what you said. You never met him, but he seems like a nice guy. I don't think there's a single person in MMA that has something negative to say about Joe B. I think he's one of the few universally loved individuals in the entire sport. He's a great guy. He just might not be the second best flyweight in the world, which is it's like what we were just talking about Amanda Nunes. People saying like Felicia Spencer's not a good fighter. Who are only 2 losses to? Chris Cyborg and Amanda Nunes, and she beat everyone else. She lost to the 2 greatest female fighters of all time. Oh, and then everyone else. She just sucks, right?
And I hate fans that say, "Oh, she sucks." Like, dude, if I'm the 3rd best whatever in the world, I am very happy with what I've done in my life. Like,
exactly.
I'm the 3rd best guy talking into a random microphone. I did it, man. I succeeded in life. So,
right.
Yeah, I just I don't know.
I asked Dana, and this wasn't a knock at Joe B, but because we've seen Dana say, I need to have that conversation with Tyron. I need to have that conversation with Junior. Like he's brought this up a lot. So I said, do you have to have the conversation with Joe? Just to be because I didn't want Dana to just not get away with not talking about it. He's like, no, I'm not having that conversation with Joe. So even Dana wants to see him keep fighting. So yeah, he's not going anywhere. Just not for a title.
Yeah, I do think the big question Joe B has to ask himself though, we hear other fighters, if you're not fighting to be the best, why are you doing it? Can he sustain that level of intensity and training and commitment to the sport, knowing you're not the best? When for most of his career, you've always believed you were the best, and in the right night he could have been the best. He just didn't win those fights against Demetrius Johnson, but he earned his shot to get those fights. Is he going to be okay with basically being a high level gatekeeper? Because that's how the UFC is going to basically book him. I think from now on, it's like, well, if you want to fight for the title, you got to beat a guy like Joe B, which the Askarov fight was. You got to be a guy like Joe B if you think you're good enough to fight for the title. So that's what I guess Joe B has to ask himself if he's okay for that in his career. Because I think a guy like Andrei Arlovski, even like Overeem before he was released, that's what the UFC was using it as. When guys like Walt Harris was fighting him, it's like, well, you need to beat guys like Overeem to get to that next level. And it seems like these guys are okay because they're still making good paychecks, they're still enjoying the sport. So I think that's questions for Joe B to ask himself.
Well, Biggie, you got anywhere to be? You want to keep chatting?
Let's go. Let's keep going.
Let's keep going. That's what I like to hear. Criticism, Ratchik versus Santos, another one from Tristan. You think the criticism by the broadcast team was warranted for the fight between Santos versus Ratchik? Did Ratchik approach the fight way too cautiously? So I'm going to be honest. When you're backstage in the media room, they usually mute the broadcast because fighters are coming in for interviews. So I heard none of the broadcast for this. So you two gentlemen watched it. What did you make of that? What did you make of the criticism in that fight, I guess, from the broadcast team?
I suppose there's just at 205 you want a little bit more action, and I feel like if you had a similar fight at say 35 or 45, there isn't the same amount of criticism. I didn't have a massive problem with it. I think the expectation is just a little bit higher because I don't want to watch a decision at 205 or heavyweight for the most part. Those fights they don't tend to be that entertaining, but at lighter weights, I'm more okay with it. So I think the standard's just a little bit different. I didn't think the criticism was, I thought it was fairly warranted, I suppose. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence with it. I didn't have a problem with it.
Casey, your thoughts? You've been openly critical of Rogan's broadcast in recent years. Was he unfair in this one?
I believe so. I think because they everyone kind of goes both ways on these things. They go, MMA, winning is all that matters. You just got to get that W. But then when guys get this W and it's not a boring W, then they're like, well, you got to entertain the fans. It's like, well, yeah, I get we want both all the time. But these are super high-level fighters. Santos is crazy dangerous. Rakic is really good. And Rakic made it his type of fight. You know, I think we wanted the kind of the Santos Jimmy Manuwa fight, just like this crazy brawl and stuff. But that's how guys get knocked out by Santos. So like, for Rakic, it's like Rakic is not in the entertainment business. He's in the get that W business. And to me, like if he knocked out Santos in the first round, he's still in the same position. He's not getting a title shot next. He won. He fought 15 minutes with a very dangerous gentleman, and he moves up the ladder, and he's going to fight another guy that's going to be just as tough. And then I think that Rakic did it smart. I mean, unless you're going to pay, and the way the pay structure is, you know, going back to the pay structure, you know, you by incentivizing that word. These guys do, you know, double their paycheck by getting that W. You're actually telling them get the W, not fight entertaining. So
sure,
and especially, and nothing's guaranteed. Like that extra 50 grand, that's not guaranteed. And 50 grand still, in the end of the day, worth the risk of the knockout or the crazy, you know, brain damage you might get from trying to get a fight of the night that you're not guaranteed either. That's just not worth it. Get that W. Your next pay goes up higher. You know, you're higher on the card. So, yeah, I thought Rakic fought great. He fought like he's supposed to. And sorry, fans. I know you paid your pay-per-view money for someone to get knocked out, but
I think it might have been like what he said at the very beginning. The prelims were bananas.
And it was such a long card. It was such a long card.
It was a long card. The prelims were bananas and violent, and I just think people were like, "Oh, let's keep up this knockout pace." Yeah. And then when you get someone like Santos and Rakic, like, because also he fought the same way against Anthony Smith.
Yeah.
And then had the split loss to Vulcan, and then you have to go back 2 years for his like head kicking as Jimmy. So I just think people were expecting that, but win is a win. He's not going to fight for the title next, so that's going to be Glover. But
and
maybe.
And the idea that you have to be exciting to move the ladder. Jan, Polish Power Błachowicz,
that's true.
He fought one of the most boring main events I've ever seen against Jacare. And then he gets rewarded by another main event against Corey Anderson, which he got the big knockout, and then he got the title fight and everything. But like the idea that it's just a W. Yeah, we get that was boring. But you know what? We forget it in like 15 minutes. So
right.
No, I'm sorry. I interrupt you, Jose.
I like Rakic versus the winner of Reyes and Jiri for the next title shot. Because Jiri and Reyes, that fight rules. It's 5 rounds too. Jiri Prohaska and Dominic Reyes, and then they can fight Rakic, Glover. Maybe the same card as Glover or Jan and Glover, so they're all on the same timeline.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress.
Yeah, the only reason I don't like the fights, I think 205 is a relatively shallow division, and I hate top contenders knocking each other out.
Sure.
But
it's just I'm just trying to see if you want to stay active and get a paycheck.
Yeah, it's more of active, just stay active paycheck. But I love that fight too. I think Rakic and Jiri are
the future.
Yeah, Man,
Reyes too is right there.
Reyes too, yeah. So,
is Bellator's 205-pound division better than the UFC's?
Ooh, whoa, we're going there now.
I am not. I need to watch more of the 205 division because I've heard of. I will say I'm partially ignorant here because I'm not sure how it is top to bottom, but I might say yes. I'm pleading ignorant, but I think it's worth a discussion. Let's say
it's 100% worth a discussion. Here, I'll pull up the the top light heavyweights are in Bellator are Ryan Bader, Phil Davis, Rumble, Corey Anderson, Anthony Johnson. I'm also saying a lot of former UFC fighters. Let's not forget that. Who else is in the tournament? Casey Nemkov, the current champion. Fedor's protege. Technically, you could throw Machida in there too.
Yeah.
Manhoof, McGeary, and then like light heavyweight, pretty much everyone we said. So it's on par. The only knock I can have against Bellator is just a lot of former UFC fighters, not a lot of homegrown talent.
Right.
But
it doesn't. it doesn't seem like anyone from the UFC's 205 division has really emerged as a star. There are a lot of, it feels like a division. I guess Jan's fought really well, but beyond that, it feels like a lot of guys who would just kind of knock each other out. That's my impression. You know, like you know what I mean? Like just a lot of guys who, as soon as they get to that number one contender spot, then someone else. It feels like a title that could swap hands a lot, even though Jan is really good lately. I don't know what to make of the division. I do agree that it does feel shallow. You see, like a couple years ago, a guy like Johnny Walker, and you think he's the next one up, and then he's had like 2 or 3 bad losses.
He lost 2 in a row, and then he just got back to the win column.
Right.
Dude, Ankalaev is someone to watch for. He's a young guy from Russia. He's been on a tear lately, but he hasn't fought anyone in the top 5 yet. So, but yeah, I'm looking at it. Jamal Hill, he's the new guy from Contender Series, right?
Yeah,
he called out John Jones after his first win.
God bless him.
So at least he has some character.
Right. He's ambitious.
Go big, man. Yeah.
It's like I can't remember who it was. It might have been Marquez or someone. He won. He got the Contender Series contract, and then his first fight was on like the tough finale where Nico Montano fought Roxy, and then he goes, "Oh, I want to fight Tyron Woodley next." I was like, "You're 4-0 in your career, guy, but shoot for the stars."
I guess.
Love.
One more question. Oh.
UFC 262's missing main event from Andy Burton. With most of the champions being booked or fought recently, who will headline the UFC 262 pay-per-view? Maybe a man Nunes who wants to run around quickly. Probably Juliana, Poirier, McNuggets 3. And then some more quickies we can rapid fire after. But UFC 262 is in May, right?
I don't know.
April, May. Yeah. UFC 262 is May. 261 is Valentina Andrade, Zhang Weili, and Rose. If I'm a betting man, I say Poirier McGregor because you don't need a title. You can let the rest of the champions play it out. E, what's your thoughts?
Stipe and Francis is already booked, right?
That's in 2
March.
weeks.
That's the next pay-per-view in 2 weeks.
So I love Stipe, but my hope is we get a quick Francis knockout and we get him right back in there for 262.
Against John?
Yes. Come on now. Tell me that isn't money.
I mean, we said a few times the biggest fight they can make that's possible now that Izzy has lost is John Francis or Francis versus John if he's the champion. Outside of Brock Lesnar versus John Jones, but I don't think Brock's coming back anytime soon. But Francis John is the biggest fight they can make in the heavyweight division.
I agree. I am salivating at the thought of it. Sign me up.
Yeah, I mean, do you think John should have one fight at heavyweight first, or do you think he should skip the queue and get the title fight right away?
My fear is he doesn't look great in his heavyweight fight, and now the luster for that heavyweight title fight is not really there. Because I don't see anyone besides Francis who I think it's a travesty if John skips the line ahead of him.
Yeah.
I think, Derek Lewis, you could argue, might deserve, but he's had a title shot not that long ago. I worry that, especially because when you watch John's last few fights, you don't see the knockout power that you might want to see at heavyweight. You see, he's still a pretty good defensive fighter, but I don't know. I worry that he goes out there and he has a number one contender fight and he looks lackluster, and now we don't have the same desire to. So I say I'm okay with him skipping the line in this instance, especially when he's one of the greatest of all time. You can argue he's the best fighter who's ever done it. So I think he's warranted the ability to skip the line.
Yeah, strike while the iron's hot. Same argument we had for why Rumble and Romero are fighting in the first round. You don't want to lose that. So, yeah, I agree with you. I also think anytime a champion changes weight class and they don't lose their belt, they have every right to skip the queue anyway. Like when TJ dropped to flyweight, skip the queue because you're still the champ. Some quickies. You want to do rapid fire with these, Casey?
Yeah, go for it.
These prediction for female and male fighter of the year. So I'm assuming 2021. That's a long way away. Jan right now, probably. If Poirier goes 2-0 against McGregor and gets the title shot, maybe. But I have no idea.
Female fighter of the year? Oh, probably Julia Pena because she'll submit Nunes.
There you go.
And then they'll do a rematch later in the year, and she'll submit Nunes twice. So Julia Pena, by 2022, Julia Pena is clearly the GOAT. What were we thinking the whole time?
There you go.
I don't know.
Will Cejudo return this year? Yes or no?
No.
Casey?
If the money is there, of course. It's just if the money is there.
I'm gonna say yes because Henry Cejudo was at the apex for this card. I think if Jan or Sterling had just won, I have a feeling Cejudo would have crashed the press conference.
If Cejudo was maybe wrestling besides this gentleman in the middle of the screen right here, if Cejudo was doing that for a paycheck right now, then I would say no. But currently, I don't see him inside a wrestling ring. So
after he beat Dominic Cruz, he's like, I'll go over and wrestle Rey Mysterio. I was like, random, but okay. Anyway, if McGregor versus Poirier and Gaethje versus Chandler are booked, what is the most likely outcome? Islam versus Oliveira or Dariush versus Oliveira? Not something I had pondered, but I'm going to say Islam just because they want. I think they want to push him out. Besides, I know they respect Dariush, but I think the UFC is going to get behind Islam, and so they'll book him in a bigger fight than Dariush.
Agreed.
I think Islam Makhachev is probably the toughest guy for matchmakers to book. Who is going to accept a fight with him?
RDA, because he did it twice.
Yeah. But what does that do? But Islam's in the same spot.
Personally, I don't know if you guys watched the post. I know Casey watched the stream, but we're talking about wrestlers and storylines and everything. Islam called out Tony Ferguson to settle the issues with Tony Ferguson and his camp, and his phrasing was, I want to help him retire, and I want to put this Habib-Tony rivalry behind us. So if we're talking about Islam being the next coming of Habib, go ahead. I had not even thought about it, but as soon as Tony Ferguson left his lips, I'm like, I'm in. Sign me up. Let's get it done.
And the UFC just released all the old posters and just cheaply Photoshop Islam's head on top of
100%.
just like a little MS Paint, just scratch out the name Macha. That would be great.
I'm not mad at it, even though I want to see one more action fight with Tony. So I'd rather see that because I think Islam beats him kind of handily too.
Islam's one of those guys. I don't know how good he is. He could be Habib good. I don't know, but it's a strong possibility he could be that good.
100%. I just want to see him fight someone in the top 10.
Yeah, me too.
All right, I think we're good, Jose.
All right, actually, I got one question for E.
Chat now. Yeah.
I got one question for E in case you know the question I'm going to ask, not MMA related. We've asked every single guest we've ever had on this show. If you had, this is a completely non-MMA, non-wrestling related question.
Okay.
How did this question start, Casey? Did someone ask us this in the comment section?
I think it was a comment.
In a hypothetical world.
Wait, hold on. I need the music. Right, here we go.
Oh, okay.
It's just thinking music. Here we go. Let's go.
In this hypothetical world where you can solve world hunger and you have a Mega Man style cannon on your arm that can shoot one flavor of ice cream, what flavor do you pick to solve world hunger? And keep in mind, this is not soft serve. This is one scoop shot. So it's like boom, 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 rather than one continuous stream. What flavor are you picking to solve world hunger?
Ooh, man. Let's go with Rocky Road. I think I'm going Rocky Road.
Answer. That's a good answer. For a long time, I said cookies. There you go. For a long time, I said cookies and cream because if you're solving world hunger, you need something with substance in there. You don't just want a singular flavor.
Right. And that's Rocky.
Right. Casey said mint chocolate chip. Yeah, Casey said mint chocolate chip. I'm not on the mint one.
Well, I forgot it was about world hunger. I was just thinking, I just thought of a gun. I was like, oh, the little mint, they're sharp. They can really cut people up.
Yeah, see, you're thinking of fighting. You're thinking of
I just went straight to world hunger. I was like, whatever.
You're thinking of weaponizing desserts.
Well, you solve world hunger by eliminating how many people are hungry.
Right.
So if you have
sure. So I said cookies and cream for a long time, and then I presented this question to Israel Adesanya and Kaikar France and the City Kickboxing team, and they came to a consensus that it's Neapolitan ice cream, the 3 flavors in one, because then you have something for everyone.
Right.
Didn't hate that idea either.
This is America. We don't compromise.
Oh, my fault.
Here we go.
But does it melt? If it melts, then it all kind of becomes one, or how do we handle that?
In this world, we'll say it's normal ice cream, so it melts at normal temperature, but lactose intolerance does not exist. So you don't have to worry about dietary restrictions.
Right.
Fair. The problem with Neapolitan is the flavors. You get 3 flavors in one, but they're really not that good on their own.
Yeah. No, they're not. They're not.
Right?
I can't remember what Hurricane said. He said something similar to you where he came up with like the junky idea. Pizza Carol, my former co-host, said vanilla, which is the incorrect answer.
Vanilla.
There are no incorrect answers except for that one.
Yeah, that was the wrong. But he also was under pressure and he hadn't had ice cream in a long time because he has no childhood. No more questions, right, Casey?
I didn't even touch. I barely hit the YouTube comments.
I'll ask this question because the last time you were on E, someone asked you if you could add one MMA fighter to the New Day, who would you add? Your answer was either Derek Lewis or Johnny Walker. Is those still your answers? Do you have any other names?
Those are actually pretty good answers. Man, let me think if I should update this. Israel's an obvious choice. I'm really looking for personality here, and he's a hell of a dancer. My God, what a dancer! And even though he's coming off a loss, I'm still going Adesanya. To me, he's a star. He's still a star. He's got a ton of personality. He's got the hips for the job, and we need some length. All of us are like 6 feet or like that 5'9" to 6 feet range. We need a guy with some length, and so we'll bring Izzy in for that.
I like your Maro to come in and just give everyone motivational speeches. Go,
I love you.
Go.
Yes. He just stares at you.
Just go.
One last question, because I think it's just kind of fun to talk about.
If I were to make a biopic about a UFC legend, which fighter would you want the film to focus on? I personally would be down to watch a GSP biopic. Ooh. They're currently making one on Mark Kerr, starring and The Rock is producing and starring in it. So.
Oh, true.
Oh wow, that's a tough one. Casey, what do you got an answer?
Actually, I think the Mark Kerr story. I think because I love the Smashing Machine. I was actually at Mark Kerr's final fight.
Oh wow!
Yeah, when he got
demolished. And they're making a biopic on Kimbo. I think was it Winston Duke? He was in Us and Black Panther. He's playing Kimbo. And I mean, as soon as that came out, I was like, killer casting right there.
Yeah, that's actually a good choice. I guess I was thinking maybe Matt Serra, just like it's a Rocky, it's a great Rocky story.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know if there's enough, in his like personal life to make it a great one.
We'll
but
make some stuff up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hollywood.
Artistic license,
I would not hate one on just the UFC 1 in general, just like the first ever event.
Yeah.
Like a dramatization of that, because there are some characters in there.
Yeah, I could see.
Who was it? Was that the one where Chemo walked out with the cross?
No, I think that was a little later, but yeah.
Okay. Like just that whole.
We'll combine them all. We'll just like put the first 15 shows into one show, type of thing.
Why not?
Which female fighter?
Valentina.
Me too. I think Valentina too.
Valentina.
I was gonna say Valentina just because I know nothing about her.
Right. She could have the most interesting life in the world, and no one knows anything about her because she travels all over the world training. She's James Bond.
No, I think you watch Killing Eve. You know that show, Killing Eve?
I love that show. Incredible show.
I think she's Villanelle. I think she's Villanelle. Yep. I think fighting is just her cover. I think she's Villanelle. I think she's out there. She goes to events across the world to say she's in an MMA fight, but really,
she's an assassin.
She's an assassin. Just
okay. She also doesn't she speak like 5 languages?
Yeah, like assassins do.
Right. You might be onto something.
Yeah, I know.
Darren Till has a pretty insane life story too. Like he had to go to Brazil because someone wanted to kill him in England, and that's why he knows Portuguese because he had to live in Brazil. You know who has Artem Lobov has a crazy story too. Like, did you know Artem is completely fluent in Spanish?
I did not know that.
Yeah, because he had to go live in Argentina for a while. Like what? Like why? Like Artem would make a great one too. Anyway, that's it.
That's it.
That's it for question. E, Biggie or Tupac?
Tupac.
Oh, I'm an East Coast guy. I grew up in the East Coast, so I got to say Biggie. I only asked that because I think it was close to the anniversary of Biggie's death. And Andreas said, yep, Andreas messaged me, said, ask E one thing about hip-hop, because when Andreas was on the show, it was about 45 minutes of hip-hop talk and about 15 minutes of MMA and boxing. But anyway.
I believe it.
I'm from Houston. I go Fat Pat.
There you go. Anyway, the reason he's on the show is to plug his project. E, tell us all about Our Heroes Rock.
Yeah, this is something near and dear to my heart, but essentially we're starting a Kickstarter right now, and the link is ourheroesrock.org. You can click the link, you can support it. But essentially, we're doing schoolhouse rock for important Black figures. I think, in schools, so many of these important people we don't learn about at an early age. We wait till college, and I think Black history is American history. It shouldn't just be confined to February. We want to use this vehicle of animation and sci-fi and hip hop to tell these stories of all these important Black figures that we should all know more about, and to aim it for kids. And so that's our goal right now. Hit the link. Once again, it's ourheroesrock.org. We have Rhapsody, who's a 2-time Grammy nominee. She's incredible. She's going to be part of the project. But it's essentially a short film that we're hoping to eventually turn into a series. But the Kickstarter link has all the information. It's something that I'm working with Andreas Hale, your guy who you just mentioned, and my man Jonathan Davenport on this. And it's been so fulfilling and rewarding for us. And in this short film, we're telling the story of Ruby Bridges through animation, through hip hop and science fiction. It's fun, it's interactive. And we like to think of this, the metaphor I've been using is, it's like when your parents used to give you your medicine or your vitamins, and they would crush them up and they would put it in the applesauce and they would mix it in, and you'd have your applesauce and you wouldn't even know it. So we want this to be much like that. We want you to enjoy this applesauce, to be entertained, and you walk away and you get your nutrients. You get some information about someone who is really important, who did something very courageous and brave, integrating a school in New Orleans in 1960. That's Ruby Bridges. So that's our hope with this series. Is we don't want to beat you over the head with education, but we want to make it fun and entertaining and engaging. And so please support our project, and just click the link. Ourheroesrock.org is our Kickstarter link. We have about 30-something days to go. We've already met our goal thanks to everyone's support, but we have a stretch goal which will allow us to make an even better project. And we've been really grateful for everyone reaching out, but continue please to support and to back our project, and also to spread the word. Yeah, let us know. But thank you guys so much for having me on. I love talking MMA with you guys. It's been a pleasure. It's been too long too. Yeah, so thanks for having me.
We'll change that. We'll get you back on again. I think you surprised Casey with your knowledge. Even he'll admit it himself. So you will become a regular, sir. And maybe even down the line, Casey, we can get him on Between the Links. Mike Heck. I don't know if you watch Around the Horn. We have our own versions of only MMA talk.
Ooh, I like it.
So maybe he can challenge someone for the BTL championship, and he can get a second title. But for Jose, that's Casey, that's Biggie. You'll find this podcast on everywhere podcasts are. With that, we'll see you next Wednesday.
Remember, Black History Month is every month.
Yes, sir.